Hi, welcome back to the Black Spruce Knit podcast. My name is Allie. I live in the Green Mountains of Vermont in the United States on Abenaki land with my partner Chris and our dog Darwin, who's joining me today. And thank you so much for watching. I'm excited to bring you another episode. I've got a lot of stuff to talk about, even though I don't have finished objects. But before I kind of jump in, I wanted to say a special thank you to everyone who left a comment on my last video about what I had mentioned about having had cancer, especially those of you who shared your own experiences with cancer or other like medical things, because it's nice to have community and to also know that that's something that I can talk about. I'm 5 years out of chemotherapy, and I'll probably talk about it more in the future if it's relevant, but it was a really nice, warm response, and I don't know, I really appreciated that. But today I want to talk about some things. So, this will be sort of a normal episode. What I'll do is I'll talk about my works in progress, and then I want to talk about my knitting goals and inspiration for next year. And then I am going to talk about some spinning projects and my advent calendar. I don't have any new acquisitions, but someone left a comment that it might be nice to see some of my spinning projects even though I'm a beginner. So I want to share them if it's interesting to you, because I have been spinning a lot. And I'll talk more about those. So I'll just jump in and sort of get started with my works in progress. I went to a family Hanukkah party last week, and my cousin gave me this knitting bag for, like, we do kind of like a gift exchange, like everyone gives a gift to one person, and my cousin gave me this beautiful project bag. And she's not a knitter, and so I was so surprised, and she told me she had asked her knitting friends and then got it on Etsy, and I love it, and it's perfect because it's really big. And she has a little baby daughter who I finally got to meet. I hadn't been able to meet because of the pandemic, and I've knit her baby a sweater, which I'll put a picture of right here, but now that her daughter's a little bigger, I want to knit her another sweater. It's very fun. Her daughter is the only baby in my family right now, and so it's fun to knit clothing for little kids. I have some friends with babies who I think I want to knit sweaters, and some friends who are expecting. But so I have another project bag, which is really exciting. So I'm holding all of the yarn. It's this Quince & Co. Lark that I've talked about before. I got 2 sweater quantities of this from Firefly Fibers on sale because they're getting rid of their stock. And I've mentioned this before, and I'll keep mentioning it until I'm not using the yarn. There has been controversy. You can Google it, Google Quince & Co. controversy, and make your own decision about the business practices. I don't know that I will otherwise buy this yarn. It felt okay to buy it from a store when certain designers had said this is helpful, but I am not sure that the business practices have aligned with what I believe, but I think that that's a decision that you should make. That said, this is a worsted weight yarn. This one's in twig. I knit Chris's Fort sweater out of it, and now I've started the Guston sweater for my dad. I'm gonna have to hold it like this to show it. So I have split for sleeves, and I'm working on the right front. Because of all of the stockinette, the bottom is flipping, but I feel pretty confident that this is going to block out. I will say, this was knit in the round, and on the stockinette, I feel like you can see that my tension is not perfectly even. I don't know if that's gonna block out, and I feel okay with that. It looks like rowing, like I had been going back and forth, which I do get, because when I knit flat, my tension's just not the same purling. But I'm knitting in the round, so it's a little strange, and this is knit on size 6 needles, so it's kind of a tight gauge. But I'm okay with it. I'm just, you know, this is for my father, and I think he is never gonna notice. So I think he'll be happy to have a hand knit sweater. This is the first sweater I've knit that's not for me or Chris. I'm doing the 44.5 size, which will only give him like a half an inch of ease, but I'm gonna have him try it on, and then I might block it a little bit bigger. It's the second biggest size. And it's a really nice pattern. It was a ton of stockinette, which was fun to knit and went so quick. And now I'm at this sort of top section where you're doing a very simple cable motif with knits and purls. And the cables are only 2 stitches, so they're really easy to do. And I'm really enjoying it. My only thing is I'm wondering what it's going to look like with the proportions, because for example, you knit the same size garter stitch edging for every size, and so I'm wondering if the proportions are going to still look nice at the second biggest size, but I'm kind of just following the pattern and seeing. I just slipped a lot of stitches off. I can fix this. Okay, there we go. I've already done one buttonhole, and it's just a yarn over buttonhole. And I think there may have been a different buttonhole I could have done, but I just decided to kind of go with a pattern. I think it was late at night and I just wanted to keep knitting. I haven't modified anything yet. I will knit the sleeves separately, which I'm excited for because I can knit them 2 at a time. What else? You know, I've already cast off for some of the arms. I have a progress keeper from a while ago. This is a Woolen Forest progress keeper. I have a lot of hers. You can see that I had realized that this yarn, I had like split a stitch, and so I went back and recaught the stitch just so that it would be stronger. I will say this yarn is very nice. It's very soft. It's a really soft but woolly wool. It's not superwash. I think it's American wool. And I will say, so Chris has been wearing the fort, despite the mistake, Chris has been wearing the fort all the time. And it is pilling a bit. And I don't have a shaver and I need to get one. So I don't know how well this is going to stand up to wear. But it's only pilling a bit and it still looks really nice, and Chris has been wearing it like almost every day. So I think it's a pretty hardy wool. You know, I usually tend to think that like the softer the wool, oftentimes the less it's gonna stand up to wear, sort of. That's kind of a blanket rule. But I think it'll be really nice for my dad. I have faith that you know, he lives with my mom, and I know that they're going to be able to take good care of this. I'll actually probably have my mom help me pick out buttons for this like neckband. And yeah, I would say I'm more than half done with the body. And especially now that I'm not going all the way in the round, it's actually going pretty quickly. It's a very easy to memorize pattern. Yeah, I'm enjoying knitting it. I definitely will update you hopefully by the next episode. I think this is going to be my last episode in December, but hopefully by the last episode, I will be done with this. And I'll probably have a little bit more to say about the pattern and the knitting. It was a lot of stockinette. See here, you can really see my tension issues. I think it's okay. I've been watching TV and hanging out while knitting. I will be excited when I block it and this stops flipping. I think it's just so much stockinette that there's like a strong curl. One thing I like about this is that because it's not a ribbed edging, you don't have to switch needle sizes, which is just sort of fun. I also realized I forgot to say what I'm wearing, which is just my star-crossed by Jacqueline Cieslak. I've worn this before, so I won't talk too much about it it is pilling, and I think that is probably because this Jill Draper Makes Stuff yarn is so soft. I need to get a shaver and clean up some of my garments, but it's cold this morning and I wanted to wear something warm. All of our snow melted, which sort of stinks. I have heard that a lot of people are having similar experiences, but what can you do? I'm glad that it's cold today. So that's my first work in progress. This bag is enormous. I love it. Anyways, okay, so that's my first work in progress. My second one, so that one was a new cast on. This one is an older cast on that I picked up again. And this is sort of like my stash busting Scrappy raglan. And it's just a basic raglan. I'm not using a pattern. I've just been trying it on. I did size 8 needles for this folded over neckband, and then I've just been trying it on to see sort of if it fits. You know, I did some increases. I did some short row shaping on the neck because I really prefer necks that have short row shaping. But I'm trying to become more comfortable with improvising patterns, and a raglan is a great pattern to improvise because you can try it on and see how it fits, and it's pretty easy. So no pattern for this. I didn't do any waist shaping until the last row, and then I decreased like 16 stitches to really sort of nip it in at the waist. I actually at first did no waist shaping, and then I tried it on and I was like, this isn't exactly what I want. And so I ripped back. And the first time I had tried a tubular bind off, but it actually was too stretchy. And so I decided that I wanted to just do a sort of like a regular cast off. I don't know what the regular cast off is called because I actually wanted it to nip in more. And now I'm on the sleeves, and I need to make some decisions about sleeve decreases. So if you are watching this, I want to know, do you think that I should knit it straight and then decrease at the end to give a balloon sleeve, or do regular sleeve decreases, which is probably what would look nice. But then I have to pay more attention. So I've kind of put it on the back burner just because I'm still thinking about the sleeves, but I am interested in what you think would look better. It's kind of, okay, I'm gonna be honest about this sweater. I don't know if this looks good. I like it. I think that it is cute and really sort of different, but I don't know if someone would walk past this and go like, that doesn't look good. That's sort of ugly. But I like it. Let's see. So what's sort of cool about this sweater is that all of the yarn for it is either scrap yarn or yarn that I either spun or dyed. So going through it, this gray that's marled is leftover from my nurtured sweater. It's Hudson and Westco Forge. The color that it's marled with is just some like hand-dyed sock yarn. This one, as well as this one, these are both Wool of the Andes Roving from Knit Picks that I dyed and then I spun. This one's a 2-ply and this one's a 3-ply. All of these yarns are different weights because it's kind of a scrappy sweater. I'm just sort of going for it. This brown and this black, which are the colors that I'm actually not sure about. What I'm not sure about is I'm not sure if some of the yarns are quite marled, excuse me, are quite marled, where some of them are more solid, and I don't know if that like looks a little funny. But But this one and this one, these are both Brooklyn tweed shelter that is left over from a marshland sweater that I made for Chris. This is the same gray. This yellow one, and I have another one, are some of my first hand-dyed yarns. This was probably the second hand-dyed yarn I made with acid dye. As I mentioned, this one is another hand-spun. And then at the end, you can see there is some of this Jill Draper make stuff from the sweater. So I am working through some scraps, working through some stash. And so I think it's okay if, it looks a little different, because effectively I didn't put any money into it. I'm using supplies I've bought before, but I didn't buy anything for this. And Chris was looking at it and told me that this is your most artistic sweater. And I actually agree. I think I really like that there's kind of an experimentation here with texture and yarn and color. And it sort of makes me think about so when I was in high school, I thought about going to art school, and I really wanted to go to the Rhode Island School of Design because they have a really great fiber arts major and program, and I wanted to do it. And there's a YouTuber named Annabelle Gao who actually did that program, and her older videos, she's doing amazing fiber arts things. I will link, she has graduated now, and so she's doing other things that are art related, but I'll link her. And I'll link specifically one of her videos about some of the fiber arts that she was doing. But I decided not to go to art school. I decided to go to a non-art school so that I could major in art and major in environmental studies and do science as well. And now I have a social work degree and I work in mental health. That's okay. But because it was not an art school, the majors that they had were drawing, painting, sculpture, architecture, and I was a drawing major. I did a lot of printmaking as well. And I still wish that I had gotten to do more kind of experimental fiber arts. So for me, dyeing and spinning yarn gets closer to experimenting, which I think is really cool. That said, I don't feel like I'm very good at dyeing with acid dyes. Chris actually gave me one of my Christmas presents early, and it is a book all about natural dyeing. It's a really in-depth book about natural dyeing, and I'm going to try that next year because I think it will sort of be more my thing. For some reason, acid dyes, I don't know, something about it doesn't feel intuitive to me. And we're going to do a dye garden next year, and we're going to grow a bunch of things that we can use for dyeing. So I'm really excited about that. But I think I love this because of it being experimental. Again, I don't know that everyone would, but I'm excited to finish it. I just need to figure out what I'm doing for the arms. I think they look too big now. I probably should do some decreases. So yeah, that is my Scrappy sweater. My last work in progress I'm not going to talk about for that long because I haven't made that much progress. These are the socks that I'm knitting for my brother. I thought he was going to come here from California right after Christmas, but he's not. And then Chris and I thought that we were going to go to California to visit, but I started to get sort of overwhelmed. I haven't been on a plane in 2 years. Last time I went was to visit my brother in California in February 2020, right before everything shut down. And I remember seeing some people wearing masks in the airport and thinking, I wonder what's going to happen. But my brother is coming in January, so I have more time to finish these. I haven't even gotten to the heel yet. I'm doing an afterthought heel. Thank you to everyone who left comments about afterthought heels. It's really helpful. I'm going to look through all of the information. but I am putting these on the back burner since I know that I have more time to finish them. Yeah, I got overwhelmed and I was like, we're not flying anywhere after Christmas. We're gonna go spend Christmas with Chris's family in Massachusetts. And then we're gonna come back here and we're gonna drive, and I don't have to go on an airplane. I don't like planes during normal times. So during now is like, no, I'm just not ready. So yeah, these are just vanilla socks with this sock set, this Hanukkah sock set from Maven Crafted, but I am going to put these on the back burner since I know that I have a couple weeks. That sweater for my dad is not on any timeline because it's not a Christmas gift, it's just a gift. And yeah, I have a lot of, I want to work on my sweaters, and I said that I wasn't going to do another test knit, and I am doing another test knit. So that is going to sort of be the focus. So those are all of my works in progress. And I wanted to talk a little bit about, my kind of like inspiration and goals for 2022. I know that some people are doing this in separate videos, but I wanted to combine it, especially because I'm not doing a make 9, which is when people pick 9 projects to do. I'm just sort of like looking at patterns that are exciting to me, because I know that for myself, if I set like strict goals and I don't accomplish them, I'll feel disappointed. So I like to kind of keep it looser, especially because I might have projects that I realize I want to do in the middle of the year, and I don't want to feel like I can't sort of change my mind. So I'm going to be putting pictures here so you can see what I'm talking about, and I'm going to look at my computer. I'm going to kind of break this up into categories. And the first category that I'm going to talk about is cables. I really want to make myself an all-over cabled sweater. I have some that aren't handmade, and it's something that I'm really enjoying I'm enjoying wearing, and I'm having fun doing the little cables on this Gaston for my dad. And I'm just dreaming of a cabled sweater for myself. So I have a couple on my list. A lot of them are Sari Nordland patterns. I've never knit one of her patterns, and they look really beautiful. I'm definitely interested in the Billy pullover. Rebecca from Creabea has done a beautiful test knit in dark green. And I will say I'm a little funny with cables. I like them to be like not too big. Like I'm sort of specific about them, and to me this is a pullover that just has like the perfect size cable. But I also really love the Willa cardigan, although I would potentially change the sleeves a little bit. But I love these baubles. This is another Sari Nordland pattern, as well as the Sawyer, which again is Sari Nordland. But for me, with the Sawyer, I just love these little tiny cables, and there are some baubles. So I think that one's kind of a front runner for me. It's definitely on my list. There's a couple other cable cardigans that I'm looking at. Harrisville just released a really beautiful collection by Sarah Solomon, and this is the Flynn, which is both a dress and just a pullover, and I just think that like it's really gorgeous. It's like all over cabled. One thing that I'm definitely thinking of with cabled, I believe that this is seamed. I don't mind seaming, but I don't really like knitting flat. So if I can knit something seamless, for me, especially seamless and probably a pullover rather than a cardigan, that feels like for me kind of ideal. Yeah, the Sawyer cardigan, which I'll go back to the picture. This one by Sari Nordland is knit in the round for most of it. And so that's kind of my front runner. Although there are some cabled sweaters that I've had on my list for a really long time that I would like to knit. So including the Cascades by Michelle Wong. Michelle Wong has a lot of gorgeous patterns. A lot of them I think are through Brooklyn Tweed. I really like the patterns that Brooklyn Tweed tends to put out. But this sweater for me, it's been on my list for ages, and I love the texture, and I love the sort of like lines of it, and it looks very it looks mossy and foresty and natural. That said, I think it's that checkerboard stitch that I didn't enjoy knitting with the fort. So yeah, I think we'll see. I definitely want to knit like an all over cabled sweater, and make sure it's one that I'm going to enjoy knitting. So that's one thing that's on my list. Another thing is I'm definitely looking at knitting some more color work pieces. I actually have not knit a yoke color work for myself. And I have on my list Fumber, which I already have the yarn for. This is a Marie Wallen pattern. I'm realizing that with color work, I'm really drawn towards more intricate color work that's kind of got like smaller lines rather than kind of like bigger, like more kind of like graphic for myself to wear. I'm definitely going to knit this and cast it on. I'm pretty excited. Eventually, as I think I've said, I would love to do a more involved Marie Wallen piece, but I think that this is going to be lovely, and I might be able to put it as an entry in the Marie Wallen knit along that Knitting with Cat Hair is doing. So that's definitely going to happen. I'm also definitely looking at the Twigs by Junko Okamoto, and I've seen a lot of beautiful versions of this, and again, it's that kind of like one stitch at a time, like sort of intricate color work that really gets me. This pattern only has one size, so I think that I would probably look through some other people's pattern notes and do a lot of modifications to make sure that it fits. It also takes a lot of yarn, and it looks like it would be quite a project, but I think it would be fun. I do really like knitting color work. I'm just trying to figure out what's the color work that I enjoy wearing the most. I have the Scout shawl on my list, which would potentially be an entry for the Knitting First knit along that Creya Bea is doing with another podcaster, because it has intarsia, which I've never done before, and it's just a gorgeous shawl. It's so beautiful, and I think I could probably use a lot of stash yarn, like fingering yarn for it. So that's a potential, that's a possibility. And then I had the Cladonia by Catherine Clark on my list, which putting a picture of, but Catherine Clark also had a new pattern that I kind of had been interested in, which is called the Wise Weeds sweater. It's based on the Wise Weeds cowl that she had designed, and it's all different herbs that are used by midwives, and I applied to test knit it. I said I wasn't going to do any more test knits, but the sweater was on my list and I saw the test knitting call, and so I said I'm going to go for it, and I've ordered yarn from Knit Picks, but it hasn't arrived yet. I think I'm going to talk more about it in my next podcast, because by then I will have started and cast on, and I'll talk more about how I picked my yarn and what the process is like. But I'm pretty excited. I'm not an herbalist. Chris actually is an herbalist and has done a lot of apprenticeships, and so we do use a lot of herbs in the household. I've also had chemotherapy, so I also honestly feel very indebted to other types of medicine, but I'm pretty excited about this piece, and I'm excited about the colors that I picked, and I'm excited to talk to you. So I probably won't knit the Cladonia because I'm knitting another piece by the same designer, but it's cool that it worked out that way. And then one last color work pattern I have my eye on is the Radari, which is an Icelandic yoke by, oh, it's an Icelandic name. I don't know if I can pronounce this. Vedis Jónsdóttir, I think. Vedis Jónsdóttir. And this is a very like well-loved pattern with an Icelandic yoke, and I want to knit this for Chris because I knit the Marshland, which I've mentioned a few times, which is a great pattern by Tin Can Knits, but it was my first colorwork sweater and the fit is not great, and I want to knit Chris some beautiful yoked sweaters with that fit better. So the Radari is definitely on my list. I don't know if I'll be able to do it out of Let Lopi. I'm gonna have Chris hi. I'm gonna have Chris, that's fine. He has a little bit of an ear infection right now. He's been to the vet. We're working on it, but I am going to let Chris try some of my Let Lopi sweaters and see if they're too itchy. I might have to pick a yarn that's a little less scratchy. I can do Let Lopi. It's funny that some people can do it next to skin. I'm a little too sensitive for that. I need to have it over a long sleeve shirt and then it's fine. And the more I wear them, kind of the softer they become, and they are the warmest. Although because it's like we're not having a super cold winter, I wish we were having a really cold winter so I could wear all my super warm garments. Anyways, so I have cables and color work on my list. Another thing that I have is some lace knitting. I have had the Hitofude cardigan by Hiroko Fukatsu on my list forever, and I just think it's beautiful. I feel like I could wear it all the time. You will notice I don't have very many spring and summer garments on this list. That's because it's winter and my brain is in winter mode. I'm sure I will knit some warm weather garments, but I feel like I could really, this would be great in the spring and even in the summer on cooler days. And I just think it's such a gorgeous lace pattern. I don't do a lot of lace knitting. I can, and I like it. It takes a lot of focus, so it's not something that I want to do for every garment. But I think for me, this would be like a beautiful piece to have. It doesn't look like it's super complicated lace, so I think it would still be enjoyable. I actually think this would be especially gorgeous in Handspun, but that would be a really big project. Another lace project that I have on my radar is this shawl called the Hen Wife by Nat Redwolf, and it's this beautiful shawl. I think I found it through Taylor Owens. If you are searching on Ravelry and you want to find some patterns that aren't just the most popular, I recommend going through other people's Ravelry's accounts if you're able to use Ravelry and looking through their favorites. That's how I find lots of projects. I'm sorry if I've looked through your favorites, but I like looking at what other people like. But I think Taylor Owens may have knit this. And I don't know, it just does it for me. It's something about the edge. It makes me feel like, sorry about that. We had to make some adjustments, but we're good. So this shawl, the Hen Wife, it definitely fits like the forest elf or like forest dweller, like woman who lives in a cottage, which is usually what I'm trying to go for. Wise woman at the edge of the woods. So I really like that. And there is another lace thing that I'm looking at. So Chris and I have talked, and I think we're not engaged, but I do think we're gonna get married in the next few years. And if we do get married, I would like to knit something for my wedding. And what I have had my eye on for many years is the Even Star shawl, which is a beautiful lace shawl. A lot of people have used it for their weddings. I have not knit something like this. I think it would be definitely a labor of love. I'm always impressed by people who knit a lot of lace shawls because I think that they take a lot of focus and concentration. That said, it doesn't look that difficult, and some of the Ravelry pages have helpful modifications to make it look really beautiful. I mean, it already looks amazing, but have helpful modifications just so you can change some things. And there's optional beadwork. And I really love that it's named after Arwen from The Lord of the Rings, which is inspired by Arwen, which is, you know, one of my favorite books. So this is an option if we end up getting married. I think that we'll probably have a small and casual wedding. If we have a wedding, it kind of depends on like what the world looks like. But it's on my radar as a potential piece that I would want to make. I think that like we both want to get married to each other, and you know, it's something that we've talked about, but there's a lot of questions sort of like timing, especially because there's a pandemic. So those are kind of the lace projects. And then the last category of project that I'm looking at is sort of basics. And I have never knit anything by Petite Knit or My Favorite Things Knitwear, both of whom are very popular designers who do really lovely basics. My friend actually gifted me a My Favorite Things Knitwear. I can't remember which number it is, but I'll put a picture here. My friend gifted me this pattern, and I do really want to knit it this year because I think it's very beautiful. Thank you, E, if you're watching this. I love you. E gave it to me a while ago and I haven't made it yet, but I think it's like a beautiful sweater, and I just know that I tend to wear basics. I love petite knit patterns. I especially love the terrazzo, which is this one made with Noro yarn, and I just think it's a gorgeous use of Noro. And some of these are patterns that I might want to try to, not to reconstruct. I don't want to reconstruct someone's paid for pattern, but I want to get more comfortable just sort of knitting things that are more basic without using a pattern. E, who gave me the My Favorite Things Knitwear pattern, is actually very, very good at knitting things without a pattern, which I think is super cool. There's like a lot of little things. It's really a goal for me to become just really comfortable knitting, especially because I would like to maybe try to design, but also to really feel like I can make exactly what I want to, and modify patterns and improvise. So those are kind of my goals for next year. Again, I'm sure I'll add many warm weather garments. If you have something that you're excited to knit in 2022, please let me know because I would love to add it to my list. Yeah, I hope it was interesting. I really would love to hear what people are thinking, and I'm looking forward to everyone making their own 2022 videos so that I can see, and I'm sure I'll get tons of inspiration. The last thing that I wanted to show you was some of my Handspun, my recent Handspun, and I also wanted to show you my Advent kit because I've been opening it and I really love it. But I'll show you some Handspun first. 3 skeins to show you. I'll start with this one. So this is Border Leicester wool that is local to me. I bought it from the farmer a few months ago. It's in my video about spinning. There's some more information about the yarn event that I went to because Vermont Sheep and Wool Festival was canceled. Before I talk anymore, I have to say, my friend Audrey showed me this person, I think his name is James Landers, who does a lot of writing about British breeds and is really in the community in the Lake District in England. And he has this video of a little girl who I think is 3 showing her Border Leicester sheep. And I'm gonna put it right here because the way that she says Border Leicester is so cute.
How old are you?
3.
What's your sheep called?
Ethel.
And what type of sheep is she?
white. Border Leicester.
Every time I think about Border Leicester, I think about that little girl. I especially love when the person's like, what type of sheep is this? And she's like, it's white. It is a white sheep. But so this is Border Leicester, and I definitely want to get more of this. And I was not happy. I used acid dyes, and I wasn't happy with how the dye took, but I spun it anyways, but I spun it sort of lazily because I wasn't happy with the dye, and it wasn't that expensive, and I'm sure I'll use it for something. But the dye just like didn't take the way that I thought it would, that it had been taking for the Wool of the Andes roving. It came out like more muted and more pastel. And it was just a little surprising. But I still think it's nice yarn. I haven't finished any of these yarns too, so they might look a little bit different. And I think it would be, I don't know what I'm going to use it for. I definitely am going to go to this farmer. She has cleaned and washed Border Leicester roving for sale, and I'm going to get a lot of it, and I'm going to experiment with some natural dyes. I found this really enjoyable to spin. It's not super soft, but the staple, so the hair lengths are pretty long, so it was easy to spin. I just wished that I had been happier with the dye. So we'll see what happens to this one. When I went to that yarn hop, that fiber crawl, this is, I think, Hands and Hearts Farm. I'm gonna link, I can't remember what farm this is. This is also local, and this is a mohair and wool mix. It's 60% mohair from a mohair goat, and then 40% Cormo Romney wool. I know that the goat was named Uppsala. I can't remember what the sheep was named, and it was dyed. And so I will link below because I can't remember what the farm was, but it's local to me. And I had never spun mohair, and it was really interesting. I actually think, I read online that you should do it a little looser so that it stays soft. It was so interesting spinning the mix because I felt like the mohair would like spin around the wool, if that makes sense. And I found it kind of slippery and difficult to spin. I actually don't know. I want to knit with this and see what it's like. This color is perfect for my mother, but she's very sensitive, and I don't know if this would irritate her if I made it into a cowl or something. I also did not calculate yardage for these yarns. I really apologize. But I'm happy with, let's see. I don't know if you can see, but I'm quite happy with the spin on this one. It's just sort of an unusual, it's unusual having never spun mohair. I don't know if I liked it. But I think it is a nice, pretty consistent yarn. So it definitely will find a home somewhere. And it's a beautiful color, but it was just very different. This farm was like mohair specialty. So both of these skeins, are local. And then this one is locally dyed, but I don't know where the wool is sourced. This is from Kingdom Fleece and Fiber Works, which is one of my favorite places to get wool. And it's Polwarth, but she has a pin drafter. There's different ways to prepare fleece. Like you can just have roving, or you can have combed top. And I think a pin drafter is kind of in between. And I love spinning pin drafted wool. It's very soft. I found that the Polwarth was easy to spin. I think it also has quite a long staple length, but it was soft. But I know that she dyed it, and this is the Dead Leaves colorway. And I think it's a 2-ply, and I was trying to do this the way that I'm planning to do my sweater spin. And also keeping in mind what I like to knit with. And I think it turned out pretty nice. I feel like the ply could maybe be a little tighter, and I'm thinking about running it through again. In some places the ply looks like perfect, but in some places to me it looks like maybe a little loose, and I haven't finished it, so I'll be interested to see. Maybe it's okay if it's a little bit not tightly plied, but I might make a cowl for Audrey out of this. I think it probably will be enough. You can see there's some, it's interesting. There are some places where like it must be too tightly plied because it's sort of going in on itself, but I don't know. I have been spinning by just kind of going for it, and I asked for a book for my birthday called Yarn Architecture by Jillian Moreno that I'm planning on reading before I start my sweater spin, and actually before I spin more, so that I can learn a little bit more about the technique, because I feel like I don't really know what I'm doing. But so if you're new to spinning and you see a lot of people with perfectly consistent spins, just know that there are many of us out here who are also just learning and figuring things out and figuring out what the right amount of twist is to put into things. And what's lovely about spinning is that even if a yarn's not perfect, you can really knit with it and make something very beautiful. So I think these are kind of exciting. Those are some of my recent spinning projects. I'm going to take a break before I start my sweater spin. The last thing that I wanted to show was some of the yarn from my advent calendar. There's been a lot because we're like halfway through December. This is the Big Little Yarn Company advent calendar. Melanie is the dyer. I believe she's Japanese American, and the theme for this advent calendar is yokai. She does a lot of really cool colorways about Japanese culture, and yokai are like they're like spirits, supernatural beings. And what's really cool is that every colorway is themed around a yokai, but then for everyone, and I know these are backwards, so I apologize, she gives you a little card and you put it in this ring to make a booklet. And I just love that, because I love that I'll have something afterwards. And I love folklore. I love learning about different types of folklore, and so it's very, very cool to be learning about a different type of yokai every day. And then I think these colors are really beautiful. I had said that I thought I was going to do a garment out of these. I have changed my mind. I'm actually pretty sure I'm going to do a blanket, because I want something that I can kind of display, because I think these are very pretty. And if I do a sweater and it's in my sweater rotation, then like half the year it'll get to be out sometimes, whereas I think I want something that will be out like almost all of the time. I find Melanie's colorways to be just like never too bright, but also colorful and saturated and just gorgeous. And like sometimes like a little, I don't know, I think she has, my hair is in this, it's in everything. I think she has kind of a magical color sense. I think this is a superwash yarn. She did it on non-superwash too, which was cool, but I'm pretty sure I picked superwash. So yeah, it's definitely like, for me, I don't know, it's been making me happy. It's been kind of a stressful month, so that's been really nice. And when I start the project, I'm sure I'll show you and talk more about which blanket I make. So that is everything that I have to show you. Hopefully it was interesting. I always appreciate your comments. I try very hard to respond to everyone. And I just am enjoying getting to know you all, and you know, I don't know. I don't really have too much life stuff to talk about. I am working more, and so I'm trying to balance that with making sure that I take really good care of myself, which means lots of time outside, lots of time knitting, lots of time reading, lots of time with friends. So if you're watching this, thank you so much. I don't know. It makes me feel so appreciative. I hope that you're having an okay time wherever you are in the world, whether it's winter or summer. I hope you're taking good care of yourself and maybe working on a really special fun project or planning out some special fun projects for next year, or just dreaming of what might be possible. So thank you for watching and take care.